Imagine Akinit, not one of shining armor, but of stolen billions. A man who bought his way into high society, built a financial empire sprawling across 113 countries, and then watched it crumble, taking the life savings of 30,000 ordinary people with him. This is the story of Sir Allen Stanford, the Caribbean knight whose $7 billion empire was nothing but a meticulously crafted 2-decade-long lie. Our story begins far from Wall Street, on the sun-drenched shores of Antigua. Here, Robert Allen Stanford, a Texan with dual U.S. and Antiguan citizenship, established his kingdom, the Stanford Financial Group, anchored by the Stanford International Bank, or SIB. For ordinary investors, SIB offered certificates of deposit, essentially savings accounts, that promised something tantalizing, consistently higher than market returns year after year. They were marketed as safe, low-risk investments, backed by diversified assets, a secure harbor for your hard-earned money. But what exactly was happening behind the veil of this offshore paradise? And why was it so appealing? Stanford's ascent was nothing short of spectacular. Starting with a small bank in Montserrat in 1985, he moved operations to Antigua in 1990, rebranding it as SIB in 1994. He cultivated an image as a philanthropic billionaire, a titan of industry. His estimated personal wealth peaked at $2.2 billion. His crowning glory came in November 2006, when he was appointed Knight Commander of the Order of the Nation by Antigua and Barbuda, officially becoming Sir Allen. He poured millions into cricket, even landing a helicopter at Lord's Cricket Ground in 2008, allegedly carrying a plexiglass box with $20 million for a prize. This wasn't just a businessman. He was a celebrity, a benefactor, a man whose word seemed as solid as gold. He had built trust, not just with his investors, but with an entire nation. But that trust was built on sand. The mechanism behind Stanford's glittering empire was shockingly simple, yet devastatingly effective. A classic Ponzi scheme operated on a scale that dwarfed many others. Stanford International Bank certificates of deposit weren't generating those incredible returns from wise investments. Instead, the vast majority of new investor money was simply used to pay off earlier investors who wanted to redeem their CDs or collect interest. It was robbing Peter to pay Paul, but on a global stage. Stanford didn't invest this money as promised. He treated the billions from his investors as his personal piggy bank. He siphoned funds to fuel his extravagant lifestyle, a 112-foot yacht, 6 private planes, multiple mansions, and lavish gambling. He also propped up his failing personal businesses, draining investor capital to keep them afloat. To maintain the illusion, he falsified SIB's financial statements, fabricating income and inflating asset values. For instance, exaggerating real estate from $63.5 million to an astonishing $3.1 billion. And to ensure no one looked too closely, he bribed Antiguan regulators and his own auditor, effectively buying their silence and ensuring a complete lack of oversight. For 2 decades, this house of cards stood tall, defying gravity. But how? The answer lies in the very nature of an offshore haven, coupled with Stanford's meticulous deception. The consistently high, above-market returns should have been the first red flag, especially as global markets fluctuated. But the allure of easy money, combined with Stanford's knighted status and philanthropic facade, blinded many. The fact that he could operate with such opaque financial statements and minimal scrutiny from Antiguan regulators, who U.S. authorities would later allege had effectively ceded oversight to him, was a gaping wound in the system. By the end of 2008, SIB owed its CD depositors more than $8 billion, a sum that should have screamed insolvency. The global financial crisis of 2008, which tightened credit and made new investment scarce, proved to be the external shock that the scheme couldn't withstand. Redemptions soared, new money dried up, and the music was about to stop. The first public cracks appeared in February 2009. On the 13th, a U.S. SEC investigation into Stanford came to light. 4 days later, on February 17th, the SEC filed civil fraud charges, alleging a $7 billion fraud. FBI agents swarmed Stanford's offices, sealing his fate. The news spread like wildfire, and by February 18th, Long queues snaked around Stanford Bank branches as anxious savers desperately tried to withdraw their money. It was too late. The SEC amended its complaint on February 27th, explicitly describing the alleged fraud as a massive Ponzi scheme. The illusion had shattered. On June 18th, FBI agents finally took Stanford into custody, indicting him on criminal charges. The dominoes continued to fall. His CFO, James Davis, pleaded guilty in August and agreed to cooperate with prosecutors, providing crucial insider information. And in a final, symbolic blow, the National Honors Committee of Antigua and Barbuda voted to strip Stanford of his knighthood in October 2009, officially revoking it in April 2010. Sir Allen was simply Allen Stanford once more, facing the full weight of justice. The fallout was catastrophic. Over 30,000 victims across 113 countries, predominantly ordinary people, middle-class families, and retirees, had their life savings, retirement funds, and pensions wiped out. Kathleen Meyer, a retired high school teacher from rural Louisiana, and her husband Louis lost $240,000, a significant portion of their dreams. It forced Louis back to work as a construction superintendent, and Kathleen to work a decade longer than planned, shattering their vision of a comfortable retirement. Blaine Smith lost over $1 million, including IRAs and CDs. He described the devastation, the loss of his home, boat, motorcycle, leaving him with only $150,000. He spent an entire year crying, stating simply, "It ruined our lives." While Stanford was sentenced to a staggering 110 years in federal prison in June 2012, after being convicted on 13 of 14 counts. The victims' financial recovery has been agonizingly slow and paltry. As of 2019, they had recouped only a tiny fraction of their losses, roughly 4.5 cents on every dollar. Meanwhile, Stanford, who even claimed amnesia after a severe prison fight in an attempt to delay his trial, sits behind bars, ended his reign not in a castle, but in a prison cell. His story is a chilling reminder that appearances can be deceiving, and promises of consistently high, risk-free returns in opaque offshore environments are often too good to be true. The legacy of the Caribbean Night is not one of philanthropy, but of fraud, a stark warning about the dangers of unchecked greed and the vulnerability of those simply seeking security for their future. This wasn't the first time an offshore dream turned into a nightmare, and it won't be the last. The question remains, what lessons have we truly